Hi everyone, welcome to Parsha with Passion. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Tetzaveh. And in this week's Parsha, Hashem is telling Moshe all the instructions to give to Aaron and the Kohanim about what they should wear and what they should do. And the cool part about this Parsha is that it's an entire conversation with Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu, and the whole time you do not hear Moshe's name at all. It's like from the beginning of the Parsha till the end of the Parsha, it never says Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe lemor. It just doesn't say it. It's this whole conversation without even his name being mentioned, which is so unusual in the Torah. So we learn, what is this about? There was a time when Moshe Rabbeinu said to Hashem, if you are going to destroy the Jewish people, then erase me from your book. This was by the Chet HaEgel, by the sin of the golden calf. Erase me from your book. Well, we know that Hashem did not erase Moshe Rabbeinu from his Torah, and in fact listened to his tefillah and saved the Jewish people. But whatever a tzaddik says, Hashem makes that come true. And so because Moshe said, erase me from your book, in fact, he was not in this Torah portion, in this Parsha. As we think about this, here's something that I hear. I hear that Moshe said there's something more important than being right, and that is being together. There's something more important than justice, and that is relationship. Hashem, I know what the Jewish people deserve, but still I'm standing by their side. Still, that matters more. Nothing matters more than the Jewish people and their relationship with Hashem and their relationship with Torah. Nothing matters more than that. And I want to take this lesson and apply it to our marriages, because we let a lot of things get in the way of our relationship. And the thing that I want to focus on today is the feeling of defensiveness that we can get. I was almost going to give an example when our spouse, whatever, but I'm just going to say anytime. There is this built-in defense mechanism that comes up, particularly for women, because we're so eager to please that if we feel like we're not pleasing in some way, we just, come right in with the defense. And what happens then is, you got it, miserable marriages, miserable times, because we are actually making ourselves miserable through our thought patterns. So I have a little paper over here, and I wrote down a few ways that we can react to situations that will be so much healthier and, more importantly, so much happier ways of reacting. Now, what kind of situations am I talking about? How about this one? When your husband comes home and he says, such a mess in here. Whoa, you could even hear it. Imagine I said to you, it's such a mess in here, right away. Defense. Yeah, well, I was busy. Yeah, well, I was in a hurry. Yeah, well, this. Yeah, well, that. Or why don't you help me clean up? Or all kinds of things, as if our internal voice is saying, I did the best I could, and I can't believe you're coming in right now, and now I feel inadequate, and I actually did the best I could, and I feel completely criticized. And really, all he did was say, it's a mess. So we have the choice of how we interpret that. Very, very often how we'll interpret that is, you think I'm inadequate. You think I'm not enough. And when we start thinking this, woo, it just goes downhill from there. Another example would be, oh, this is a fun one. Did you ever have your spouse compliment someone else's cooking or someone else's housekeeping? Oh my gosh. I'll tell you, our family goes camping pretty much every summer, and I remember the first time my husband noticed how his brother's campsite looked. So, my sister-in-law, she should be blessed. She's just a very put-together person. So the children's shoes were neatly lined up, and she swept out her tent, and everything was nice and neat at all hours of the day. And when her husband wanted to take a nap, I'm sure all the blankets were folded and pretty. And then you move over to our tent. Well, my kids were pretty sandy and messy, and I didn't really even ever think of lining up shoes at a campsite. There's actually, in a tent, there's a pocket, and you just throw the shoes into the pocket. So that works for me. And I certainly didn't think of cleaning up because I'm on vacation. So why would I start cleaning up anything? And I remember when he noticed that, or he made some kind of reference to it, and my husband is a very neat person, and I knew, you know what, he likes that. He appreciates that, and right away I almost felt like I was going to throw up, to be honest. I'm like, oh gosh, he wants me to be her. I'm supposed to be her, and I'm not enough, and he's not even happy, and he's just wishing that I could do all, okay. And you know what, maybe there is a 10% part of him that is wishing that I could know how to do that stuff, and I always try. I always try to get it a little bit better. But from that conversation, again, I had a choice. I could feel very distant from him and pull away and be in my own defensiveness and my own inadequacy and my own misery. Or I could choose one of the following reactions that we're going to talk about. So that's another fun time when your husband compliments something else that could happen. And then there's a third time where simply he has a different opinion of how things should go. And you think that your way is better. And it's an example of that for our family would be when we go on family trips. So when we go on family trips, how I grew up is that when you stop at a rest stop, it's a great opportunity to meet strangers. We would make friends with all kinds of people. My parents would schmooze and chat, oh, where are you from? Because we would be driving up from Ohio. So they would make friends, and they would be very conscious of a Kiddush Hashem, that we're the big Jewish family coming out. We want to make a nice impression, be very friendly. And a lot of little kids, we all have to run around. So everyone would run up and down the sidewalk and do jumping jacks. Who could do 50 jumping jacks? And that was how we had fun, and that was the family culture. And in my husband's family, there's a different culture. His culture, same thing. You got to make a Kiddush Hashem. You're at a rest stop. People are noticing you. And that means that every child has to be dressed neat and clean, tucked in, chocolate off their face. And if it's cold, they got to be wearing a coat. They cannot just run out. They can't run at all. Do not run. You're in a rest stop. There's people here, etc., etc. Very different culture. Both equally valid. Both trying for Kiddush Hashem. So who's right and who's wrong? And how do I react when he says, let's get the kids all dressed, kids, tuck in, don't run. And in the back of my head, I'm like, wait, kids, let's go run and have, how do I react? How do I respond to this feeling of, wait, I'm right, you're not right, I'm right, or something like that. So I want to walk you through a few different possible reactions that you could have. And the reason that I'm sharing this with you is because I want you to be happy. And this, I believe, is one of the keys to happiness, to take down our defenses a little bit, and to learn how to hear people for what they're saying, specifically our husbands. So, number one, a fun thing to practice is staying quiet. That's an easy one, or a really hard one, depending. It definitely is an exercise. If you hear something that just makes you feel like a knot in your stomach, or like you want to punch someone, don't react. Just stay quiet. Chances are, if you're in a decent relationship, he wasn't trying to hurt you. Chances are, when, he said that comment, he just was having an opinion or a thought, or wasn't even thinking. And the fact that it hit you there doesn't mean that the next thing that comes out of your mouth should be a response. I wouldn't say the first, but a tool that you can have in your tool belt and how to respond is just stay quiet. Just let it wash in and wash out. And soon it will be over. This might sound like low-level functioning, but it's actually a really important exercise, because we're used to reacting and responding really, like as if we have to come up with a response to everything, and we don't. The same way, if you hear yourself speak, you say a whole bunch of things that really don't merit a response, Just say no. You're just kvetching or complaining, or, I don't know, talking a little rough to a kid, then you really didn't mean it. And in 1 second, it's over. And then you wouldn't want someone to come in at that moment and respond exactly to that. So sometimes, just be quiet. Just let it come in and come out. Tool number 2 is allow your feelings to come up and say hello to your little self. So most often, some would say all the time, what's happening when you feel defensive is that there's a little girl in you that is kicking and screaming and feeling very bad. Maybe feeling fearful, like we said, like, I'm not enough, back to kindergarten, nobody likes me. Or maybe feeling fearful, they're better than me, he's going to leave me. or I'll never do this, I'm all alone in the world. All these fears come up, and they're real. Maybe there was a time in your life where you really were all alone, and so this comment that comes at you, it makes you feel terribly alone, and you lash out from a place of fear, and it comes out as anger or defensiveness. Maybe there was a time in your life where someone told you you weren't enough, but maybe that's not this time. So what you do is you just hear it, feel the feeling. You can feel it in your body, sometimes in your stomach, in your throat. Feel it, acknowledge it. Hello, feeling. Hello, little girl who once was hurt. I know you. And there's deeper work that you can do on this to really lift that pain up to Hashem. But in this moment, you kind of want to do two things. You want to lift that pain up to Hashem. Hashem, let me use that pain to serve you. But also, hello, adults. We're now in this life. And in this life, we're blessed to be in a happy, healthy home, or in a messy kitchen, or whatever the blessings are that you have. So in this life, I can bring out my adult self, and I can let her talk to my little child self and say, we're okay now, and then react or don't react, respond from that place, from the place of I'm an adult, it's okay, we're building a life together, Another tool is to laugh at yourself. I know that I have gotten defensive about so many hilarious things. No one would even believe it, where like something just comes out of my mouth. I can't even believe I was just defensive about that. Oh my gosh, at this point I feel so stupid, but looking back, it's hilarious. It's like, here's, most people in your world are not trying to make you feel bad, and there you are feeling bad. I remember I have some siblings who like to talk like more strongly, just like the sharper sense of humor, so they said to me, like, Riff, your lipstick looks like a clown. And in those days, I was so defensive that I think that ruined my whole Shabbos. I'm not even joking. Like, my lipstick looks like a clown. How could someone say that to me? And like, I feel ugly and awful. And really, what they were saying was, like, that's a bad color. And if we're friends, like, they're not trying to hurt me. So if I can laugh at myself for taking a lipstick remark so seriously, then I can just melt the situation. Just laugh at yourself, like, wow, I'm a sensitive human being. That's hilarious. The littlest comments bother me. Okay, let me get some perspective on the comments. So the third thing is to use humor. And that humor can be directed at yourself. And by the way, it can also be directed at your spouse. Like, sometimes our spouses feel critical about things that are pretty funny. Things that are completely uncontrollable. Things that they might want to change, but it's not the reality of a family that it can be changed. So that's like funny about human nature. It's just kind of funny that we are always wishing that things could be different and better. Number 4 is find him fascinating. Find him fascinating means that you're using the tool of a time capsule where you go back in time to when you first met each other and you're learning about each other. And as you hear a comment, instead of filtering it through the self-righteous right or wrong paradigm, you fit it into who is this man in front of me paradigm. You find him fascinating for the things that bother him and the things that he gets excited about and the opinions that he has. You're learning about him. So it stops being about you and it starts being like, so interesting, like that really bothers him. And this is actually one of the most powerful tools that I feel. The other tools are also tools that I use, but this tool is, for me, the one that brings the most healing, the most connection, the most love, is when I can just not be in my own head and say, whoa, what is it that bothers him? And use this conversation as an opportunity to find out what makes him tick. Wow, it's so interesting. And really have compassion for that, and also let yourself fall in love with that. Like, what is that? Oh, so that's the man. Oh, it's so interesting. And not even judging it at all, just noticing it is so powerful because, like I said in the example of us at the rest stop, it's not a matter of right and wrong. People grow up differently and people are different. So it's just noticing, this really works for them. And the last tool is to separate the facts, to realize that it's not personal. So someone who I was just speaking to, she gave me an example of that her spouse mentioned that one toy she feels is better for the child than another toy. And she had bought that first toy with a lot of love and care. So here she is thinking, oh my goodness, it's my first kid. I know what I'm doing. I'm a good mother, and why are you saying that this other toy is better for what? It triggered in her so many really difficult things. And as we spoke about it, we realized, but what are the facts? What are the facts here? And what did you do with those facts? And we all do this. There's the facts, and then there's what we do with the facts. So it's really, another tool is just to get a little bit of distance. So let's review these tools really quickly. First one is stay quiet. The second one is to allow your feelings to come up and say hello to your little child. The third is to laugh at yourself or at him in a nice way. The fourth is to find him fascinating. That's my favorite one. And the fifth is to separate the facts and to realize that it's not personal. That fifth one is the mechanism for how you say hello to your little child. You first say hello to your little child, and then your adult comes in and says, it's not personal, there's some facts going on here. What happens when you do this? What happens when you let go of being defensive? What happens is that you make a place for learning about each other, and your marriage becomes an ongoing, everlasting, forever process of getting to know one another at a deeper and deeper level, because you're actually making a safe space for each other to communicate with one another. And you just evoke much more honesty because you're there to listen to the other person and not to come in with your defenses. And then you create this kind of communication loop where they end up hearing you in a much more open way. The second thing is that you save your bigger confrontations for what really matters. So instead of bickering about what is an appropriate bedtime or how to do bedtime or which homework is important and should you go to PTA, and it's just like so many little things and little ways of doing things, or did you say right, did you tell the right thing to the Rebbe, and all these little conversations, and when should you pay the bill? And so instead of getting defensive over that and making everything into a big deal, you actually save your energy for when things do need to be a big deal. And then when they do need to be a big deal, you have open communication because you've really seen one another, because you've let down your defenses. And then then you can actually agree to disagree, or simply disagree, or simply agree. But you've changed the energy of those bigger confrontations, and you've also created less of them. So the energy is different because your communication is much safer, as you really don't have to step on eggshells because you're okay. You can have an honest conversation. And also you save your energy for those bigger conversations where it might get a little sticky. It might not be about defensiveness, but you might have to, not kind of relax into what the other person wants. You might have to be the ezer kenegdo. You might have to say what you want in some capacity. So you actually save your energy for those interactions, and those interactions become better. So I hope you enjoyed this week's Parsha with Passion. I hope your Shabbos is filled with shalom bayis, and that you are filled with the abundant the abundant sense of being absolutely enough, and that you can open your eyes to enjoy the wonderful work that you do and work so hard to do to prepare for Shabbos and to be the wonderful woman that you are, and that you can melt into knowing that this person that you're with, this husband, this sister, this friend, this spouse, whoever is in your world, that they are doing the very best that they can. Have a very good Shabbos, everyone. Bye-bye. I forgot to add one more thing, and that is that This week we started the Art of Womanhood workshop, and if you would like to join, it is not too late. It's a 5-week interactive workshop on the art of womanhood. It's called Getting Back Your Zing. It's getting back that feeling of aliveness and balance. We're going to learn about boundaries and self-acceptance and people-pleasing and all things women. And actually, this is the second round of the workshop. The first workshop was amazing. We did 5 weeks, had tons of women. This is our second round. If you want to sign up, please send me an email. It's rivkamalka@gmail, ITSRIVKAMALKA, and I will send you the link to sign up. All right? Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.